it's Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And today is kind of a controversial topic, and it's sensitive because it involves young people. And how much responsibility should young blacks, especially college students, have in the ongoing Black American struggle? Should they be an active part of the struggle, or should they be able to sit back as youths and live their lives out without the pressure of being black in America? So let's have the conversation. This is an article by Ricky L. Jones for USA Today, and he says, colleges exploit black athletes for March Madness. It's time to boycott anti-DEI universities. Now this is a serious matter because these colleges feel like they can take young blacks, make gobs of money off of them, but then turn around and say, you can play on our basketball team, but your people cannot teach at our school. They're not good enough to teach at our school, but you're good enough to make money by playing basketball and or football for our university. University of Southern California professor Sean Harper recently wrote a piece in Forbes titled, Black Athletes Could Upset March Madness and End Attacks on DEI. He rightfully points out that black people represent a disproportionate percentage of college student athletes who populate the high-revenue sports of basketball and football at predominantly white institutions, both nationwide and in states that are against diversity, equity, and inclusion. And he is absolutely right. These big colleges want these black athletes, superior black athletes, but then they want to institute an anti-diversity program for everybody else, for the other black people. Magically deceptive anti-DEI advocates and politicians never bring this up. Why? Maybe because these black boys make white-controlled athletic conferences, universities, coaches, athletic directors, university presidents, television networks, and others insane amounts of money. Harper speaks of Birmingham Mayor Randall Woodfin encouraging black athletes to steer clear of powerhouses like Alabama and Auburn if the state passed anti-diversity legislation. Well, Alabama obviously didn't take Woodfin seriously because Governor Kay Ivey and her Confederates joined Florida and Texas in passing such a law. Kentucky is on the brink of doing the same. Yes, these southern states always want a slave situation with black people. They want black people to do all the work, and they want to get the money and the credit. NAACP President Derrick Johnson and others are calling for black athletes to avoid Florida and ostensibly other states attacking diversity initiatives and black access to higher education. They opine the imbalance of power and profit demands a response, particularly because these institutions reap considerable financial benefits from the very individuals they fail to stand by in matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Will black athletes boycott universities in states where DEI is banned? It all comes down to Harper's question. Will black student athletes at the University of Alabama, Auburn, University of Florida, Florida State, University of Kentucky, I would add the University of Louisville, University of Texas, and other sports powerhouses located in states where DEI has been banned, also use their platforms to discourage others from enrolling at their institutions? Such questions about black athletes standing against injustice are not new. In 2017, legendary sports writer William Rhoden chimed in when President Donald Trump called black athletes SOBs before a seething, mostly white crowd, ironically in racially challenged Alabama. Trump was calling out the few who dared to support Colin Kaepernick's protest of racism, brutality, and inequality in America. Rhoden believed that Trump and much of white America would not back down. To the contrary, he argued they would ramp up their attacks and opined, "This is a brawl." The question then and now is, are black athletes prepared for it? Sadly, in most cases, the answer to Rhoden's query remains the same: no. And the answer probably is no, because these young people are not thinking about injustice or systemic racism. Most of them don't even know what that is, because they are pampered from the time they're in high school, so they don't even think racism affects them. And they're only going to get that wake-up call when something happens to them. To be sure, most black collegiate and professional athletes are anomalous human beings who possess unusual physical abilities. Once their gifts are identified, usually by adolescents, they are set upon a path that cultivates their athletic capabilities but often numbs their minds. Educational achievement and intellectual aptitude matter little to most recruiters, universities, coaches, and academic advisors. Racial consciousness is absolutely inconsequential. In fact, it is usually discouraged. And that's what the athletes say. They don't even want them associating with a lot of those black kids on campus because they don't want their minds to be triggered that I'm black and they're discriminating against other black people who are my people. So they discourage them from associating with the other black kids on the campus. And sometimes that's how the white girls get a foothold. This is one reason black athletes are rarely steered toward black studies classes by their academic advisors at predominantly white institutions. Ultimately, by design, they usually, not always, become intellectually underdeveloped Lilliputians with no serious racial, political, or historical grounding, housed within overdeveloped physical shells. Like good little entertainers, they're trained to play their games, not resist, and only worry about money, which they rarely hold on to in the long run. And the reason being that they haven't been trained even in how to manage money, because they are like overgrown, overdeveloped children in many cases, but not all. Men like Paul Robeson, Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Colin Kaepernick were not only rare athletes, they also possessed rare racial awareness. That is the reason most black athletes did not stand with Kaepernick when he was whiteballed. I like that. Instead of being blackballed, he was whiteballed. The support of the few who did quickly faded. Yeah, because they didn't have any real awareness. They were just doing something, probably trying to be seen. Today, Kaepernick's name and movement are rarely mentioned. His cause was ultimately co-opted, propagandized, and neutered, and he was ghosted. What they're asking these athletes to do is not that big of a deal, and it would work. But the only thing is, it's a simple thing. All they have to do is not go to those schools that are anti-DEI. There are several schools, good schools, big white schools that do not have an anti-DEI policy. But these people in these southern states know black people. They know they can offer them a little bit of money, even though they could get that money somewhere else. But it's just the mentality of black people. You have to care about your people to do that. Nobody's asking them to give up their lives. Dr. Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X sacrificed their lives because they cared about their people. But these kids are not, they don't even know to care. And even when they get to be grown men, they still won't care. It takes an unusual, unique kind of person to care. Because again, they're not having to give up anything. Instead of going to the University of Alabama, go to Notre Dame. Or go to the University of Pennsylvania. Go somewhere else to school. If they're a star athlete, they can go anywhere. But the thinking is not there. It just isn't. All things considered, it is not surprising that so few black athletes stand up. It is actually remarkable that any of them ever do. Be clear, student athletes will lose if they are left to stand alone, and they will, in most cases, as many fearful black administrators, faculty, and staff have muzzled themselves on PWI campuses. The ball players are completely unprepared for the assaults of white supremacy. They are too young and largely anesthetized by flawed education and socialization. Well, yeah, so really, give the young people a break. That's what he's saying. But still, if they choose to go to schools that don't have this anti-DEI policy, I still believe everybody would fare better. Like most miseducated, misled, and cowed black people, student athletes cannot adjust when debates dive into history, political ideology, and structural marginalization, or outright ignore core grievances and alter the discussions altogether. Yes, black athletes could certainly upset March Madness and more. They could disrupt the anti-diversity movement in higher education, but they won't. It is just another reality that makes the current crop of black people in America easy prey for their enemies. So shut up and keep on dribbling, boys. Well, this is kind of a cynical piece. I think that black athletes have to be groomed and trained if black people want them to have a social conscience and a social awareness. So you have to start early with them, training them not only in their athletic ability, but training their minds, and that is what they're not getting. Their minds are not really trained, and they're definitely not going to get that in college. Because that is not what the colleges want from them. They basically want enslaved athletes. That's really what they want. Okay, y'all, so let me know what you think about this. Should student athletes be involved in the struggle? And should they be asked to not go to anti-DEI schools and to go to schools, because there are plenty of schools that have not adopted that policy? Let me know what you think about this. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.